Greetings, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade, J52, and I am joined this week by my merry band of misfit cohorts. We have immediately off to my left our resident wolf of the Timber Clan, announcing his rainbowish presence. And then immediately off to my character's immediate right, we also have our RP hologram Artie.
Hello.
So we're running a little bit behind this week due to some technical problems that have happened off camera and away from the show, but we're up and running finally. Now, we don't really have a lot to get through this week, but the bits that we do have are fairly significant, so let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, the first thing we have is a Infinity promo that began on the 13th for PC and will be beginning on January the 7th for console players. And what we're getting this time around is actually the Mirror Ingle Carrier. And this is a brand new ship that we're going to be picking up. It's actually going to be a new scaling starship, specifically called the Mirror Escort Carrier in game. You get it out of the Tier 6 pack. And it's basically them building off of the success of the Walker class prototype cruiser that we got that could scale up. And basically what that means is as soon as you get out of the tutorial, you can crack open this ship and use it, and it will actually level with you as time goes on. So beginning immediately at level 1, it would have a hull strength of 11,500, 3 forward weapons, 1 aft, 1 experimental slot, 3 TAC consoles, an engineer console, and a science. And then once you get all the way to level 65, you have 51,750 base hull, 5 forward weapons, 2 aft, 1 experimental. You get the 5 tactical consoles, 2 engineering, and 4 science. So it's fairly interesting scaling. And then some of the other stats we have, it's a hull modifier of 1.15, shield modifier of 1.25. It's got 2 device slots, a commander tactical setup, a lieutenant engineering slash intel. I was getting ahead of myself a little. A lieutenant commander science, a ensign universal, and a lieutenant commander universal slash temp ops. Then you get a base turn of 14 degrees per second. Then it can load dual cannons, so that is something to be aware of. And you also get your Graviton Implosion Projector as the experimental weapon. Comes with 1 hangar bay, and these pets are actually pretty nasty. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Then it gets the Escort Carrier Mastery Package of Accuracy Defense, All Damage and Crit Chance. Then it gets the Superior Area Denial trait. And basically what this does, whenever we activate Fire at Will or Cannon Scatter Volley, it causes the weapons to debuff the foe's armor resistance for a short time, as well as granting a Fire at Will 1 or Cannon Scatter Volley 1 to your hangar pets. So this is going to be interesting for anybody that uses a hangar. Then the console itself, it provides a passive boost to EPG and aux power. It can be equipped on any ship. And then activating it, it says, activating this console intensely damages local subatomic fields for a short duration. The energy released from this process seeks out and significantly harms nearby power sources, usually starships, dealing significant electrical damage as it cascades outwards. So basically it's a jumping electrical attack, as a sort of example there. And then this is the Vanity Shields blog. I'm glad that they started including this so we can see some of the different Vanity Shields on this. But yeah, that's what we've got for our starship, and you can see the different ranks of pets that we have. But yeah, thoughts from you guys on our new ship?
Oh, just looking over the stats and whatnot, I thoroughly enjoy it. From the last scaling ship that they released, and then now seeing this one, I like what I'm seeing. Like, this one, it's not, full OP starting out. I mean, it is much better setup than some other ships that are, get at level 1 to level 10 and whatnot. But I'm glad this one is start at level 10 and you don't get all the stuff that you would, same stuff that you get at 65. I mean, besides hull and whatnot, like, yeah, you get all these weapon slots and whatnot, but you don't get, like, all the console slots and everything immediately out the bat. So that's a nice jump for it. So I do like that, how that scales.
Basically, the pacing, and it's not the second coming of the Walker. Right. Okay, I can see that. So, for me, like I say, I like the thought that they're now doing some scaling starships, because this is going to be very good for some newer players or somebody looking to level alts, because now they don't have to worry about switching ships every 10 levels, setting up a new bit of gear, setting up a new bridge officer layout, and a lot of the headaches that can come with setting up a new ship.
Yeah.
Now, for veteran players like us, it's not as big of a deal. We generally have an idea of what we want to do and probably where we're going to take the ship, but somebody that's a newer player that may not have a lot of the experience we do, they may not know fully what to do with the ship. They may go straight from the Miranda into, say, a cruiser and not really know which way they want to go with it. Or, let's say even later, once you get into maybe the Tier 3, Tier 4 area, when you start trying to decide what way you might want to go with the tune. And this kind of alleviates some of those concerns, and it gives them a good starship to boot that's going to work very great all the way up to 65 even, until they feel more comfortable swapping ships and so on. But the one gripe, and this is the one gripe I have with this particular ship, and it is kind of a nitpick more than anything, is for me, I would like to see the scaling starships be more C-store items, and not necessarily lockbox. Or if they are going to put them in the boxes, to give them sort of their own tier
from your
of
channel.
box. I think our resident Timberwolf has had to bounce out for a few, but hopefully he'll be back with us.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I say, that's
I could see,
just some of...
I can see
ahead.
where you're going with that, because putting it in a lockbox, now it's like, oh, it's a special chance to get it. And it's kind of defeats the purpose of having a leveling ship. Yeah, because when you're opening lockboxes, you're hoping for stuff for end game, really. Not looking for something starting out. And if you are opening stuff for starting out, you're just preparing it for late game. So, trying to get a ship like this late, it's a little backwards, I guess.
And like I said, because that's my one gripe with this, is I think this would have been better suited for a C-store option for something like this. And like I say, I get why they're wanting to, put some scaling ships in the boxes. I get it. Like I say, it makes money for them. They're a business. They have to make money. Totally 100% understand that. But like I say, for me, and maybe I'm wrong about this, maybe some people out there are going to go for this just for the trait, which wouldn't really surprise me if they're somebody that is going to run regularly with a hangar bay. Maybe they are somebody that likes that type of thing. But for me personally, I don't see too many people going too far out of their way to get this ship unless it's for the trait or something like that. And reason being is, like you said, it's going to be mainly for endgame if that's what they're wanting it for. Now, if somebody is lucky enough to, say, once in a while they crack a key, they get the ship, then I could see somebody using it. And I think this is one instance where it would have been better suited if it was a bit more accessible. Because somebody, at least in my opinion, would get more use out of this putting it on an alt than they would perhaps a very kitted out and geared main. Except for, maybe people with hangar bays or something, but again, that's a side tangent at this point. But, like I say, that's my only real gripe with it. But, anyways, moving right along, we have our patch notes. And then, not really a lot going on with our patch notes this time around. I mean, there is some bits of stuff that got fixed, but we've got our Infinity promo going on right now, and we just went over our mirror angle ship for the winter event. When accessing the winter event from the journal or welcome screen, players will now be transported in front of Q, so that's a good little thing. And then resolved a typo where Q was referring to a free Breen ship instead of a free Fekleri or Fekiri ship. You can see that being confusing for some people. Then resolved an error that would cause, or resolved an issue that would cause an error when attempting to play the Gingerbread Village TFO from the globe in the gazebo. I did not know there was an issue with that. Of course, I don't do that Q that much. That explains a lot. So, we've got some pretty interesting general fixes. Resolved an issue that was causing sidekicked players to have incorrect hit points. Added a mission objective in the power source that would grant players an EV suit. And then, for Admiralty, we've got new sorting functions based on cruisers, tactical, and science ships, now sorting together. It says they will sort by power of their abilities in their category. Tactical ships of the same quality and tier will now sort by how strong their tactical strength is. And then we've got a waypoint for the lava tubes on New Romulus. And it says resolved an issue that was causing the description to cut off in the Vodwar Juggernaut reward pack. That's a good one there. Resolved an issue that was causing the Chronoton torpedo launcher in the Reclaim store to not be Mark 12 very rare. Yeah, that's a big one. It says resolved an issue that was causing the Aegis Hyper Impulse engines to not appear on all engines of the Vodwar Miracle Worker Juggernaut. So, yeah, some pretty interesting stuff there. And then, this is the big one, the known issue, using a red shirt or generic security officer in the mission, the power source can block mission progress, so they are aware of that one. But, yeah, any real big notes stick out to you, good sir?
No, not really. Nothing. I'm just glad that they're, catching up on things like this. Yeah, nothing really big on my end, from what I can tell.
I'd say the big ones for me would probably be the Admiralty sorting options. If you're a weirdo like me, you've collected a lot of ships, and, well, pretty much a lot of people in the game if you've been playing for a while. A lot of us that like to collect ships and everything, this is actually going to be very good. And for anybody in general, really. If you're looking for that one specific ship, and maybe it's one Admiralty assignment, you're trying to plan it out, but it's just, you can't find the ships in the mess of an inventory of Admiralty cards you have. So this I could see as being useful to kind of help people out there. But anyway, that's what we have for our patch notes this week. Like I say, not really a lot happened on that front. We'll have this in the description for you guys so you can check this out and read the patch notes for yourself a little bit. But this is the big thing I know Artie's been kind of interested in. We have some Season 2 art for our Discovery trailer.
Oh yeah. So, as you may know, Season 2 for Discovery is coming out January 17th. It'll be premiering 8:30 p.m. or Eastern Standard, or 5:30 Pacific Standard. So, yeah. But yeah, what we got here is actually the official trailer, as well as some poster art for it. Honestly, just looking at the poster, amazing. Like, you can tell that there's going to be some new dynamics to some of these characters that we've already established. Some new additions, like you can see this young Spock over here with a beard on the right, and the Captain Saru, whatnot. So you actually get to see. It feels like they're building up to what they will later run into in probably TOS and things like that. So you're actually seeing some character building a little bit. As well as we also get that same cool image like at the very end of Discovery Season 1 with the Enterprise showing up, which that's still a very beautiful looking Enterprise, I have to say. So, I don't think we're allowed to really show the trailer on air, so I'm going to say watch the trailer on your own time. The link will be in the description. So, this is a new look into it, and as most people may say, you know, Discovery's not the best Star Trek show. It's still starting out like most shows did, so might give it a chance. And who knows, maybe you can wait until season 2 is fully complete and then just binge watch season 1 and 2 at the same time. So whatever floats your boat. But yeah, that's what we got here.
Yep, I can definitely say they definitely got a pretty good art department here. Whoever came up with this poster needs a freaking raise, because it is that nice, I think. And plus, I want that Enterprise as a skin for the Constitutions in game.
Yeah, I mean, you can put it on the Discovery Federation skin on like the Connie. It just doesn't look the same, and that bugs some people. Who knows? Maybe they'll get an update.
Yeah, that would end up bugging me too. Honestly, it really would. Like I say, I'm not normally the Space Barbie type, but I don't want my ships to look like complete flaming dog crap either, if that makes sense. Yeah. I like them to at least look presentable. But, yep, and like Artie was saying, you know, I'm still one of those guys. I'm kind of on the fence about Discovery. I don't completely hate it from what I've seen, but I've not seen that big moment as of yet that's hooked me to the series, right. If that makes sense. It's like, I because it's Trek, I honestly want it to do good. I really do. I want it to do good. But to me, I need to see more of a hook line, and to me, it's not there just yet. It could be, depending on how they play it with Season 2. They very well may end up surprising, and I hope they do. But we'll see from there, I guess. But that's what we've got for our articles this week. Like we were saying, not really a lot going on in that aspect. I was actually kind of surprised.
Yeah, I feel like since we're at the winter event and whatnot at the end of the year, we're not going to get many big updates except maybe some fixes for next year, and that's about it.
Yep. But we are seeing some little bits and pieces starting to creep out about maybe some of the new content coming, both on the actual show front and little bits for the game. We're seeing some ships coming along, and I guess we'll see where it goes from there. But anyways, getting into our budget build of the evening, we have the Fakiri Sator ship. This is the one that we have from our winter event this year. Some of you guys are probably already flying around with it. Some of you, like me, are cheap and aren't going to use low buy for it. And then some of you are probably just going to grind it out because you don't have the resources to get it right away, which all of that's fine. But for those of you that have had time to experiment with the ship, you know what it's capable of. For everybody else, this is kind of an idea of what you could do if you just want to build it on a cheaper version. Now, we're doing a bare bones budget in this instance because usually these ships are, in a lot of people's cases, if you're a free-to-play player who you don't really have a lot of money to throw at the game, or you're a brand new player, this is going to be, like Cryptic Spartan said on the stream, one of the only, if not the only, Tier 6 ships you may have for quite some time. So, what can you do to get the most bang for your buck out of this ship? What can you do to squeeze the most power out of it in the meantime? And that's what we're wanting to do here. And that's why we're going bare bones with this. Now, for our bare bones budgets, we assume a maximum EC spending limit of 2 million energy credits, and everything else has to be free or cheap as possible. Now, for this particular build, we went with phasers on the ship because you can get a lot of very nice phaser items on the cheap for budget builds. Now, for this particular ship, it's a 4-4 layout, in terms of your weapons. Now in the front we have one of our phaser beam arrays, a crit D times 2 from the Everything Old is New mission. And we have our brand new Phaser Task Force beam array. This is of course assuming you've hit tier 6 on your reps. If you've not got access to that yet, then slap on another one of the blue phasers. Then we also have our Quantum Phase Torpedo and our Quantum Phase Beam Array up front. These are going to be some very nice items to draw from, and are going to give you a bit of healing based off of their procs. Then for the rear weapons, we have 2 more of our Phaser Beam Arrays. We also have our Heavy Biomolecular Phaser Turret. We'll explain why when we get to the set bonuses portion. And then we also have our Trilithium Omni. This is a Phaser Omni you can get from the Beyond the Nexus mission, and has a lot of nice stuff with it. Now for our shields, engines, deflector, those items, we did mix and match a little bit for some of the items. We have, for our shields and our deflector, the 2-piece Bajor set, or Bajor Defense, which is going to give us some buffs to our phaser damage, which is the main reason we're going to have that. Then we have our Prevailing Innervated Impulse Engines from the competitive rep. Basically, whenever we activate a firing mode ability, it's going to give us some nice benefits. Let me pull up the item in game here. Now, the one I'm reading off of is the Fortified, and the only real difference between the Fortified and the Prevailing is what actually triggers it. And in this case, for you guys, for the budget build, it'll actually be off of your firing modes. But it gives you 350% flight speed for 5 seconds. It gives you some flight turn rate, some defense rating, and it increases the recharge speed on your bridge officer power, specifically engineering in this instance. But for a better tooltip, actually, we can showcase this. So it would be tactical in your guys' case that you're going to get the benefit to. But either way, a good set of engines. This is something that a lot of people that like to deal damage have used. Then for your warp core, we have the Temporal Phase Overcharged core. This is a core that we use quite a bit for our budget builds because, in our opinion, it is very, very hard to top this core in terms of budget cores. And basically what this is going to do is it's basically a standard overcharged core, but it also gives you a Temporal Negotiator style effect from its capacitor. And that's going to cut your bridge officer cooldowns in half for the duration that the capacitor is active. So that's going to be free cooldown reduction for you. Then for your devices, we like to think of them usually as personal preference. We don't like assuming what people are using for devices. Now, a couple that we will recommend is the Subspace Field Modulator from the Skirmish mission. You could pick that up out of the available missions from the Spectre's Arc in your mission journal. Then another device you might like is the Energy Amplifier for the Category 2 damage bonus that it gives, meaning it's an overall bonus damage and it's not just base damage increase. Then you've got your Geminite Hardpoints, your Ablative Armor Catalyst. Point being, you've got quite a few devices you can draw from. These are just a few that we personally would recommend. Now for your console layout, it is a little bit more tactical heavy. It's 3 engineering, 3 science, and 5 tactical consoles. Now for your engineering consoles, we have the reinforced armaments. This is going to tie into our Trilithium 2-piece and give a bit of EPS, which is going to be good for regenerating our power. Then we have our Deconstructive Resonance Emitter. Try saying that 5 times fast. And this is actually a Swarm Lockbox item that we were able to pick up for fairly cheap off of the exchange. We paid about $400,000 for it at the moment. And this is going to bounce between $400,000 to about $1 million is the highest I've seen them when a Infinity event's not going on. So be aware there's probably going to be some price fluctuation. Now, the big strength to this is it's going to give some passive increases to your phaser damage as well as your kinetics. So that's going to buff those items. And you can see the on use is going to give you a nice little kinetic attack that you can smack the enemy with. And it's also going to reduce their damage resistance as well. So that's going to be something very nice for you to have. Then if I could, buttons worth of crap today. Then for the SARoss itself, this is the console that comes with it. It is the Chains of Fire console. You may have seen this when Ambassador Kale and some of the Cryptic Bunch actually previewed it on stream. Maybe you've had a chance to test drive it yourself. But basically what this is going to do is it's going to increase fire damage that you deal a little bit. And it's also going to basically shoot out anchors that are going to hook into enemy ships, and you can drag them around like you've got a bunch of tractor beams on them. And this is actually a pretty significant pull that you're going to have on this console. But I know we were all kind of giggling like schoolgirls whenever we saw the how much it was dragging some of these ships around, because there's definitely some potential with this console. This is actually one of the few times that we saw fire damage being introduced in space. We'll talk a bit more about that once we get to the trait. Then for our science consoles, we have the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. This is a very nice science console that we feature quite a bit. This is going to give you increased critical chance and severity based on your aux power up to the maximum on the console. You're also going to get a very nice chunk of shield capacity, so it's going to up your shield cap a good bit. And you're also going to get some shield resistance, which is going to reduce damage to your shields. So that's some very nice benefits. That's going to touch base on pretty much all of the areas that you're going to want in a console. Then we have the Assimilated module, which is going to give you a bit of crit chance and severity, as well as a bit of control expertise. Then we have our Quantum Phase Converter, which is going to give some nice phaser benefits, as well as some other items, and it's going to round out our Quantum Phase 3-piece, and we'll look at that set bonus momentarily. Finally, for tactical consoles, we have 4 of the phaser relays, and then we have the Multi-Conduit Energy Relay, which is going to round out our 2-piece bonus, along with the Biomolecular Turret. Now, some of these items may seem kind of strange to pair together, especially putting a turret on a beam build, but there's actually a very good reason for it in this case. Now, our trilithium items, the reason you're going to want to use those is on the beam itself, you have a chance to gain, or the Omni, you have a chance to gain 10% firing cycle haste for your energy weapons. And just by having the reinforced armaments on there as well, you're going to get a static 5% firing cycle haste for your energy weapons. It's going to be active no matter what. So that is some very potent bonuses that you're going to get off of those beams, especially at the budget end where firing cycle haste isn't always readily available. For your quantum phase items, you're going to have the 2-piece and 3-pieces to draw from. Now, your 2-piece is basically going to double the potency of the weapon's shield drain and double the potency of the quantum phase high yield torpedo shield heal. So pretty much a what you see is what you get. Then your quantum phase 3-piece. This is where it gets kind of nasty. Now the numbers are going to be distorted a bit because we're on the ground as I'm reading this tooltip, but it's a 10-kilometer range, 2-minute recharge. It's going to deal pretty significant phaser damage to the foe that you hit with it for 10 seconds. It's going to debuff that foe for a -3 to all power systems per second for 10 seconds, and it's going to give you that same amount of power that it drains. Now this is able to be buffed by EPG and drain expertise, and the phaser damage itself will benefit from any buffs that you have to phasers. I know it doesn't actually say that on here, but through testing and placing different items on the ships, we were able to determine that's how it works. Then, that's the biomole. Did I grab the biomole? Apparently I did not. But the big thing with your biomolecular weapon is it's going to give you a 7.5% Category 2 bonus damage to your phasers in this instance. That's why you've got it. So that's a fairly significant boost. People may think, well, 7.5%, that's not a lot. But because it's a Category 2, that's actually fairly significant. The big difference between a Category 1 damage, it's something like your tactical consoles. It buffs the base damage of the items, or buffs the base damage of your phasers. And a Category 2 comes in at the end of everything. And when it says 7.5% bonus, all it cares about is, okay, what kind of damage does he have right now? Okay, here's 7.5% more. This is essentially how a Category 2 works. And that's going to give you quite a bit of stuff to work with. Now for our skill setup, it's pretty much our standard skill setup we use here on the show. It's a 14 engineering, 14 science, 18 tactical setup. Now, we're not going to go through and explain why we picked every single point, because we'd be here for at least another 30 minutes or longer if we did. But for those of you that want a more technical explanation of why we picked certain points that we did, we can have a video for you guys that will link to you explaining some of the why. But for those of you that just want to kind of copy down a build or get an idea for a skill setup, this is what we use. It's a balanced approach that will let you adapt to any ship, any situation with relative ease. You can see our lieutenant level skills, our lieutenant commander skills here. Then we have our commander level skills, captain, and then finally the admiral skills. For our specializations, we went with Intel Primary, Miracle Worker Secondary. The Intel is going to give us some nice damage benefits for the ship, and we went with Miracle Worker to give some healing benefits to kind of balance it out. If you want to go more damage dealing, you could maybe pair it with Strategist for some of the nice benefits that it gives. Maybe Temp Ops if you like that sort of thing. But point being, you do have some options here. Now, getting into the traits that you're going to have here. Now, for our personal space traits, we went with Beam Training to increase our beam damage. We went with Beam Barrage as our R&D crafting trait. We usually like to assume you've leveled at least one of the R&D schools. In this case, we've chosen Beams as the school. Then there's Elusive for the free defensive value, making your ship harder to hit. Fleet Coordinator for free damage based on how many people are in your party, 2% minimum, and up to a 10% maximum. Grace Under Fire, which is our engineering career-specific trait. This is because the builder actually defaults to engineers. If you're not an engineering character, but you would still like to utilize this build, swap out Grace Under Fire for your own career-specific trait, and you're good to go. Then we have our Nanite Repair Matrix for the Midnight mission. It's going to be a nice little heal when we drop below 50% hull every so often. Point Blank Shot for a Category 2 energy weapons damage bonus the closer we are to the target, up to a certain maximum benefit. Operative for some critical chance and severity. And then we have our Redirected Armor Plating. This is going to give us some temporary damage resistance whenever we're shot from behind or on the sides, so a very nice little trait to have. Then this is one of our instances where we're actually able to have 4 of our starship traits that are going to benefit us. First up, we have the Best Defense, which is going to grant a hull healing buff along with the normal effects of our attack patterns. Going the Extra Mile, which is going to grant some temporary hit points when we heal somebody while they're above 90%. Our Predictive Algorithms from Intel, which is going to give some accuracy bonuses and offset things like the firing mode penalty to fall, or the accuracy penalty, I should say. Then finally we have our new trait that actually comes from the Sator itself, which is the Maw of Grethor. Going at full throttle while in combat will Shoot giant bursts of flame behind your ship, dealing fire damage both initially and over time to all foes affected. So that giant fireball that, at least while you have this trait equipped, that giant fireball that flies out the rear end of your ship, that's not just for show. There's actually a purpose to it. And in this case, you're actually going to set the enemies on fire and deal damage over time as well as initially. So, this is one of those things, like we were saying, this is one of the first times we've actually saw fire damage get introduced to space. And from what we're able to tell so far is that the console will buff this trait very, very slightly, or at least the damage that it does. So maybe we'll see more damages using fire in the future for space. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Then we have our basic setup for our rep traits. We have advanced target systems for the crit sev. We've got our Ox Power Offense for the damage boosting and accuracy bonus that it gives based on Ox Power. Precision for the free critical hit chance. Magnified Firepower for the free Category 2 damage boost that it's going to give. Then we have our Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, which is going to be a nice little AoE physical damage and slow to foes that are caught within it. Biomolecular Shield Gen, which is going to reduce damage to shields while you're inside it, as well as grant a bit of shield healing and regen. Deploy Sensor Interference Platform, which is a nice oh crap I'm going to die type of thing. You can throw this little sensor platform up and it will taunt enemies to itself and continue to do so until the duration runs out or until it's destroyed, whichever of those two things comes first. Then finally we have our Quantum Singularity Manipulation. This is going to be a fairly significant science stat increase for the time it's active, as well as a temporary cloaking effect. Now to get a bit more bang for your buck, pop some exotic buffs you may have first, maybe throw a Gravity Well into the mix, then fire your Quantum Singularity Manipulation, drop your Anti-Time on foes, and you're going to get a lot more damage and bang for your buck out of the powers that way. Now this is where the ship kind of comes together finally. We've got our bridge officer layout. Now for this particular ship you have a Commander Tactical, Ensign Tactical, a Lieutenant Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Science, and Lieutenant Commander Universal / Pilot. Now we wanted to kind of go for a balanced approach with the ship, but kind of tip it more towards the damage dealing side. Now for the Commander Tactical, you have a Tactical Team 1. This is going to redirect your shields a bit, as well as purge boarding parties. We have your Scatter Volley to take advantage of our turret. Then our Beam Fire at Will to take advantage of our beams, letting them smack most anything within range with an attack. Then we have our Attack Pattern Beta 3 in this case to debuff foes. Then, for our Instant Tactical, we have our Torpedo Spread, so we can throw around our torpedo powers, or our quantum phase torpedoes, I mean. I'm losing words today, man. I'm losing words. But, anyways, for our Lieutenant Commander Science, we have our Science Team 1. This is going to heal the shields a bit, as well as purge subnucleonic-based effects from us. We have our hazard emitters, which is going to be a heal over time, a little bit of damage reduction, and it's going to purge things like the Borg plasma fires from the ship. Finally, we have our Gravity Well 1, which is going to suck most anything within range into a nice little pile for us. That way they're a lot easier to get to. Then, finally, for our Lieutenant Commander Universal / Pilot, whoop, our Engineering, I forgot that. It's one of those days, people. I've felt like poo since this morning. I blame allergies. But anyway, for our engineering team, this is going to heal our hull and purge viral matrix type effects. Then we have our reverse shield polarity to recharge our shields in a pinch based off of incoming damage. And now we get to our Lieutenant Commander Universal / Pilot seat. Now for this particular seat and everything, we went with an engineer in this case, to kind of give it a little bit more, I guess, stuff is the word I'm looking for here. We went with a emergency power to engines 1, which is going to be a nice little get out of dodge power, a little bit of extra power to the engines at speed when we need it. We went with the hold together pilot power, which is going to give a little bit of healing when you're at full throttle and stuff like that. Then we have our emergency power to weapons 3, which is going to give some weapon power as well as giving some bonus damage. Now, if you want a more offensive-based pilot power, if you think you've got enough defensive value in the ship, then you could swap that out for something maybe like reroute reserves. Maybe you get a lot of bang for your buck out of lock trajectory even. Point being, you've got some options. Now, as far as the total cost to put the ship together, you're looking at about, assuming prices stay similar to what they are now, you're looking at about 400k EC. That's to buy our console. And you're looking at 30,625 dilithium, or about 4 days of build time, assuming only one character refining dilithium per day. So that's what we've got for our ship. Like I said, we kind of wanted to tip it more towards the damage side, and by using some of these items, we wanted to show you guys that you can get a lot more on the budget end for this ship, and it's going to be a lot more capable than what I believe some people were giving it credit for. But thoughts from you, Sir Artie?
To be honest, since it's actually the first build I've seen, I like it for a bare bones. It's very small, very lean for this style of builds. I like it. Works out great. I do feel like the biggest issue with it, having to get the of war games. That's the point. I feel like the only reason behind that is that,
you can see that.
How many people play it, but that's in-game issue, not really much of the build itself. So, but no, yeah, I like it. It looks good.
Yep. And that is actually a good point you do bring up. If for whatever reason you guys can't get your hands on the competitive engines, another option you do have is you could just maybe use the old Romulan engines as one example. Those are some very nice alternative engines. You could slap on the third piece of the Bajor set, but like we're saying, this is just kind of to give you guys ideas, which is the main purpose of us doing these budget builds, is to kind of give you guys ideas and say, hey, this is something that you could do. This is a way you can get a good ship without having to break the bank, in this case. But anyways, that's what we have for a budget build this evening. We hope you guys like it. Hopefully you can kind of see which direction we wanted to take it here. But I'll have this in the notes for you guys. You can check it out if you're interested. But anyways, coming up on the Bugs Corner, I actually do have a weird one for you guys this week that I'm wondering if some of you guys that actually have your Sator are actually seeing this. And this is actually a relatively harmless bug, so I can actually talk about it and maybe get some opinions from you guys. Now, it's kind of comical, but in sector space, there is actually an issue with the Sator right now where it is actually scaling to be a lot bigger than it's supposed to be, and it's actually bigger than an Enterprise J in some cases in sector space.
Okay.
So much so that it can eat planets.
So what you're saying is that same bug with the Zinkethi escort that one time.
Yeah, kind of similar to that, except a lot bigger.
How does it keep on happening to the tiny ships? How does this keep on happening?
I don't know, but it amuses me.
Barrel roll, then take a photo, then report the bug.
Yeah, pretty much. But I say, if you guys are seeing something like that, if you're seeing weird issues like that, like I say, do let us know. We do pass this stuff on to the devs. I pretty much talk to some of these guys on a regular basis, and can pass along any bugs you guys may have. You know, like I say, feel free to give it to me directly. Feel free to pass it to one of these screwballs. They'll give it to me. We'll see to it the devs actually get it. But that's what we've got for the Bugs Corner this week as far as anything really major. But now we're coming up onto the final segment of the evening, the RP Corner with Artie. What have you got for us this week, bro?
For the most part, I'm going to actually give everyone a simple update of what happened after our last game, and then we can talk about the ideas between the GM to the player about what I feel, how this will be going as things go on, obviously, and then leave it open-ended for the audience to basically comment on it. So if you could open up the map and just take us down to...
It is open.
Yeah, I dropped the link towards you. And we just look at where most of our story's combat has been going on. As you can tell, there's been a lot of changes. So, the last fight, we had Timber and Blade basically... Oh, my bad. Captain Torrance and Admiral Cruzan, as well as the Romulan and Federation forces at Starbase 37, more or less give a pounding while taking a pounding. These unknown forces pushed in with some heavy ships, got a good beachhead on Starbase 37, and then a large dreadnought started taking pop shots with a solar cannon. Basically, the power of a star being focused into a subspace portal to be dropped on the enemy anywhere in nearby space without, enemies getting into firing range of the dreadnought. That didn't stop them for long, as Captain Torrance and Recruzan did get in the range and destroy this dreadnought and take quite a few of these enemy ships with them, but not without serious damages to their own side. So it is sad to say, as GM as well as storyteller to all this, that Starbase 37 has fallen. No one is every allied vessel in the nearby subsector of that starbase has been pulled back to Starbase 13, as well as Deep Space K7. While we are also getting reinforcements coming down to Starbase Lunsford to reinforce those two starbases there. Currently, Starbase 37 is a no-fly zone, as last reported sensor contacts are of these unknown enemies coming in to reinforce their position. But from what you guys could tell, they're not there yet, as the fleets are still en route. So yeah, what basically happened is that everyone retreated back to current starbases, and that's where they're holed up for their next episode. Also, to add on to this, you might notice that the Klingons from Granalda Station have also moved in since the last map update, as well as a few other unknown enemy fleets moving around. Basically, over New Kara with the Tholians, there's apparently a heavy skirmish going on. The combat is apparently still going, from what from what sensors will be going with, as well as there seems to be now a formal line within Klingon space all the way up to Drozana, which the Klingons, they flew in, attempted to defend Drozana in the nearby space, were seriously damaged with along the same lines of what happened at Starbase 37, and then also retreated back to K7 with what's left of their fleet. So now we have actual lines drawn in space. We can see where our next battles may be fought, what our next ideas will be going with, and that's currently the map. We basically have everyone slowly coming in, as well as allies from the Klingons and Romulan Republic coming down further. Oh, and I almost forgot. Over at Minas Corva, one successful thing has happened. The unknown enemy has been driven back from Minas Corva and have taken residence in the Brateka Nebula. So that's good news and bad news all together, I guess you could say. But
okay,
moving on to more out of character, how I feel things may be going after this. We've had our first major conflict, our first major battle in character, as well as seeing how the combat system really works. Along with that, we actually are seeing some actual movement within the galaxy itself, and maybe some political shifts a little bit. So I feel like as GM, there may be the chance of me explaining certain political views of these other factions, which we may be getting into next game, like how Cardassia may be deciding to join in finally, how what's left of the the Romulan Star Empire may be doing stuff, and the Tholians have been shot at. Who knows? Maybe we'll finally get Tholian reinforcements just onto your position. I feel like we're going to definitely be expanding this quite a bit more to the point of both your character Blade, as well as Timber's character, will be in far deeper waters than you guys will probably first expecting. So I'm hoping I don't full-on scare you guys, but for what we have here, I'm actually wondering what the audience would, like to see, or what suggestions they might have, if any. If you've been keeping up with the show so far, thank you. It's really helpful, as well as it actually gives me some insight of where to really take the players and how to mold the rest of the universe to the story at the moment, which literally anything can happen at this point. I mean, we have lots of enemy ships, a lot of dead currently from the first skirmishes. Who knows what's going to happen next? So, yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys mention about what could happen, what you think could what could be added in, suggestions here and there, that sort of thing. So yeah, there you go.
Looks like it's going to be an interesting next game.
Oh yeah,
for certain.
I will say now, you guys have taken a hell of a beating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I has plans. I has plans. I'm sure Timber will too. We'll have to see what Admiral Cruzan and Captain Torrance will get into this week. To see, yeah. But definitely feel free to join us, folks, if you're somebody that enjoys RP. If you don't really want to join us full time, maybe you might decide you want to join us for a recon mission, or maybe just want to join us for one particular skirmish or battle and then bounce out, or maybe you want to be like a mercenary that provides us some bits of data or whatever it is. We're doing this to have fun, and also if you guys, like I say, you guys want to join us in. Words. If you guys want to join us as well to have some fun as well, then that's great. But anyways, it's going to be interesting to see what becomes of our intrepid heroes in this next
also, Blade,
venture.
I will like you to go ahead and zoom out of the map just to look at the full thing. If you guys remember from the first episode, wasn't this much movement. Now you're seeing, there's stuff going on in Breen space, people moving. You got a whole bunch of stuff over in the core worlds. You got some movement up by what's left of Romulus. I've just moved a lot of things. There's just a lot of movement going on this map. I wasn't expecting to go this large when I first made the map. It was great. So, just seeing that.
Yeah, that would be something he would do.
It's fun.
Oh, yes. Yes, it absolutely is. So, yeah, it's looking like it's gonna get pretty interesting before everything's said and done. But, anyways, guys, that's what we've got for a show this week. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. Like I say, feel free to join us for the RP event, everything. If that's something you guys like, or if you just want to see what kind of shenanigans we get into, that's okay too. But if you guys have any requests for the Budget Builds Corner, feel free to let us know. We do take requests. Let us know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is the kind of budget I've got to work with. I want to be a damage dealer, I want to be a tank, or I want to be a space wizard. Whatever it is, and we'll hook you up with a build. If you feel that your gear and your setup are in order, but it's your piloting that needs a little bit of work, then get a brief little video clip of yourself to us and submit it to us, and we will offer some tips and tricks on how to improve your piloting. But if you have any bugs, feel free to let us know. We will pass those along to the devs, make sure that they get those so the bugs can get fixed relatively quickly, hopefully. They don't like bugs any more than you or I do, and they want to squash those things just as quick as you and I do out there. But also, if you have any requests for the RP Corner, maybe there's a certain element of the current event you want Artie to talk about a little bit, or something completely unrelated, let him know, and he may just talk about your topic on air. But, anyways, that's what we've got for a show this week. On our way out the door, as always, a shout out to our good friends over at the Temporal Armada. Be sure to check those guys out. They've got a pretty good program you guys might enjoy. Also, shout out to our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. The party is there. They've always got good music, which is why we usually stream them through our little music bot here in the TeamSpeak. But, anyways, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show reminding you to have your tribbles spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.